Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and today I'll be doing a personal reflection on my metacognition process. So, I would like to start by defining what culture is. Culture is a set of values, beliefs, traditions, customs that characterize a group of people. And I think this definition is really good, but it didn't make sense to me until I started relating it to things I had lived or experiences I had. For example, I decided to add this map, which it's the first draft I made for the culture map we were asked to deliver in class. And I don't think it's a bad map if you see it like this. It has research behind it, it has keywords. But when I did it, I wasn't taking into account something that is essential for culture, which is the individuals. So when I started making this map again, I remember when I went to Quebec. And I think this was really important because when I was there, I realized that culture wasn't abstract anymore. It was something tangible. And it's not because of the places, it was not because of the delicious food they had there. It was because of the people. And people really made me understand in a more deep way what their culture was. And I think it's really important to share, to compare, and also to interact with people from that culture to begin to understand what it is. This is a second map it's the map I turned in, and I think it was really interesting because I was already taking into account individuals, but I was also taking into account myself. And I think it was really important for me to realize that I'm not isolated from the culture concept. I'm sorry. I have knowledge, I have stories, I have traditions. I like certain foods, I like certain drinks. And this is because of the culture because of my context, because of the things I've lived. It was an important realization, and it also made me see the map made me understand self-aware differently. I decided to add this slide about uh, this really sad young woman, um, because I used to think, or I used to relate the self-aware concept with something negative, like always asking to yourself, why do you do this? Why are you like this? And like in a really deprecating way. But then I had to relearn this concept in order to, yeah, know myself better. And I realized this about asking you the correct type of questions. Who are you? Who do you want to be? um Maybe how do you think others see you, how others actually see you. And I think it's really important to have that really clear, especially if you're going to have an interaction with someone from other culture. Also, I think this concept really helped me to answer some of the questions I had at the beginning of the course. Because, for example, when we did the Jamboard, I wrote, how do you negotiate with someone from other culture but stay true to yourself? Because it is true that when negotiating, sometimes you're going to have to um let some things go and do what they want, and sometimes you're going to have to stand your ground. And I really think that self-awareness is a really good skill and a really good thing you need to do in order to be able to negotiate and know your values, your beliefs, and know what you're willing to change or to adapt. So, globalization has been really important to me because it has taught me not to see people as a stereotype. Oh, yeah. And also, I think globalization is really important to me because it has made me realize that I'm not, or the reality I live in, it's not the only one in the world. There are several realities, there are several lives, there are so many contexts, so many things to see. And this can be kind of scary sometimes, but it can also be really, really cool, and it can lead you to learn a lot of things. For example, I'm going to talk a little bit about my cultural identity. And if it weren't for globalization, I wouldn't be able to know J-pop as I know it today. Like the first J-pop is Japanese pop. So the first time I heard about Japanese pop, it was because back when I was in, I think it was sixth grade, I had this friend, Ayaka, who was Japanese, and she told me that she really liked this song that was Japanese pop. And I listened to it and I was like, wow, this is really different to anything I've ever heard. And I thought it was really interesting. Then I didn't have a phone for a very long time, which I'm grateful for. But when I had the access to internet, I started learning so much about around the world, especially from Japan. And I fell in love with Japanese pop, which led me to make it a important part of my cultural identity, that it's um, very useful when I want to know someone else. For example, when I wanted to do a band, I searched people with similar interests to mine, and nowadays we have a band that it's based on Japanese pop, Japanese punk, because we have the information to know how it sounds. We don't have the whole information because we haven't been to Japan, and I would love to go. But the music, it sounds kind of different because it's based on something that it's not from here. And I really like the combination you can get when you mix a lot of Mexican elements, but like the Japanese elements in music as well. So the things I notice more about culture is music, which could be like arts in general. It's like the first thing I ask someone if they're like from another place. And the food. Well, I'm studying a degree on music production and technology, so that's why I'm really drawn to music, and I really like food when I travel, and I'm really interested in gastronomy as such. So that's why I also ask a lot about it. Speaking more about food, I'm going to talk about cultural intelligence. And for talking about the importance of it, I'm going to give it an example. Back when I was in sixth grade, I'm talking about Ayaka again. She invited me and a group of friends to her house. And this was a really different experience for me because I had been to the houses of so many friends, but I had never been asked to take off my shoes. And I was really excited. The thing is, when we got there, we realized that food wasn't ready, and that Ayaka and her family usually ate at 6 p.m. and it was, let's say, 3 o'clock. Also, her mother was making these really delicious pizzas and noodles, but they took a little bit of preparation time, and they were set to be ready at 6. So I was chill about it. I was really hungry, but I was willing to wait. But some of my group of friends, they started complaining and being rude about how the dinner was taking so long. And it wasn't dinner, like the food, but and I just started like not I started freaking out because I didn't know what to do, because for some part I understood my friends. I was hungry as well, but I really thought that it was disrespectful not to wait and to complain. And that day had a lot of issues between my friends and Ayaka, but I decided that I wanted to learn, and that I needed to adapt to the circumstances because she had adapted to so much in Mexico. But she was inviting us to her house, so it was a good opportunity for her to share how her reality was before it all changed. So yeah, basically I stayed friends with Ajaka, and I think this wouldn't have been able if I hadn't been calm and just willing to learn something new and take all of the differences in and process them. Now I'm going to talk about multiculturalism, interculturalism, and transculturalism. Sorry, they are long words. So for multiculturalism, I would like to talk about the first time I had pho. It's a Vietnamese food. And the first time I went to the restaurant, I didn't see that the owner was actually Vietnamese. So for me, it was interacting with his culture, but without knowing about it. And I think multicultural, it's really based on maybe you are seeing something about other culture, but you're not really interacting with someone from there. And that's how I understood it. So yeah, it wasn't until later that I went again because the restaurant was really good that I met the owner, and he was cooking and he was really nice, and he explained to me things about his traditional food, which was really, really good. Multiculturalism for me, sorry, interculturalism for me is making a mixture of cultures. And the example I'm going to use to demonstrate how I understand that, it's like when I went to Iceland, we had to switch roles and help with the house. Some days I would do the cleaning, some other days I would do the cooking, some other days I would clean the bathroom and that stuff. So this day it was really important because I had to do the cooking. And I was paired up with this French guy who's named Clement. Clement. Yeah, he never liked my pronunciation of his name. But it was really interesting because we made something. It was like a vegetable dish that he used to have a lot in home, and the way of preparation, it was really French, he said. But he asked me to add salsa to it, Mexican salsa, and it was really funny to see like the reactions of everybody. And actually, I thought the dish was really good, and I think it was a really good experience. And as for transculturalism, I'm going to talk about like these transitions you sometimes make between cultures and how they mix. But yeah, it's more like the transition, not like a mixture. So for example, with my brother, we once learned that there was a Japanese way to make pancakes, which were more fluffy and they were really delicious. So when we have time, we try, and we love making this type of pancakes. And instead of like the traditional ones that my mom used to make, which is actually not from Mexico as well. It's also something that it's from another culture. But yeah, I'm calling it I'm calling it a tradition or something that is really important to me, because sometimes when my family and I were really hungry, my family and I would make hotcakes, pancakes, and then we changed the way we were doing it. So, to sum up, I think all of these concepts are really important, and something that I really thought that was so important for me was self-awareness and also knowing my identity, because when I'm trying to learn something new, it's always good to know to adapt, but it's also really good to know who you are, where do you come from, and basically what you like. I think this was really helpful just to fully understand a lot of the concepts. And that's basically it. I really liked reviewing these topics, and I really liked, in general, I really think globalization is great for me in the sense that it makes me feel excited in general and motivated about the things that await, but it also makes me more grounded, and it makes me more grateful towards the things I have, because as I mentioned before, there are a lot of realities, and it is always good to be informed and to know where are you standing, but also like how are people doing in general. Thank you so much.